Close your eyes and you can hear it. The soft thump of helicopter blades over the hills, the camp PA barking orders no one really wants to follow, and a pair of worn dog tags clinking against a green shirt that's seen too much. MASH wasn't just a TV show. It was a strange magic trick. A comedy set in a war zone that somehow made millions of people laugh, think, and feel a little less alone. Over 11 seasons, the 47th became a second home for viewers who understood that gallows humor isn't denial, it's how you survive. Tonight, we're digging up 15 weird, surprising, and wait, that really happened? Details you might have missed, even if you've binged the series 3 times. We'll look at secret battles over the laugh track, characters who vanished without proper goodbyes, a theme song with lyrics written by a teenager, and a finale so massive it basically stopped America in its tracks. Along the way, we'll peek behind the curtain at how the cast and writers kept the show feeling painfully human, even when network notes begged for something safer. If you love the smell of distant rotor wash and wisecracks with your triage, you're in the right place. Before we scrub in, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into classic TV, because after this, we're lining up more trips to must-see TV country, TGIF land, and beyond. 15 is rolling into pre-op right now. 15. The show outlasted the war. Here's the irony that still stuns new fans. MASH ran for 11 seasons, while the actual Korean War lasted about 3 years. That mismatch did more than create trivia. It shaped the show's DNA. Early episodes leaned zany, a whiplash counterpoint to the surgical chaos. But as the seasons piled up, the writers let the camp age emotionally. The humor calcified into something darker and warmer, still funny, but with a bruise underneath. Characters began carrying the wear and tear of endless rotation. Fresh wounded, fresh grief, fresh jokes, because what else can you do? That slow tilt explains why Season 1. Hawkeye doesn't feel quite like Season 8 Hawkeye. Same wit, same rebellion, but the punchlines land with a sigh. The series essentially asked, what does a temporary situation feel like when it never seems to end? That's not just a war question, it's a life question. And because they had time, the show experimented. Bottle episodes, letter episodes, moral puzzles that didn't end in neat speeches. Longevity gave the writers permission to move from gag-driven to character-driven, from cartoons to confessionals. Which is why, when we finally say goodbye, it hurts like losing a friend you assumed would always be around. 14. The Laugh Track Wars. MASH arrived during the era when networks believed audiences needed to be told when to laugh. The producers didn't agree. What followed were years of negotiations, experiments, and quiet rebellions. One famous compromise: no laugh track in the operating room. Blood, clamps, and gallbladders don't pair well with canned chuckles, and the creative team fought to keep those scenes sacred, letting the tension breathe without the studio giggle. Internationally, the show sometimes aired without a laugh track at all, proof that the writing and performances could carry the humor without prompts. The effect is fascinating. Watch 2 versions back to back, and you'll notice how timing shifts, how a wry Hawkeye look replaces the need for a chorus of laughs. It's like hearing a favorite song unplugged. The tug of war over laughter wasn't just technical, it was philosophical. Is comedy a release valve or a mask? MASH argued for both, but it insisted on choosing its moments. When the show laughs, it's on the characters' terms, never at the expense of the pain in front of them. And in a strange way, that battle over invisible laughter helped MASH feel more honest than most comedies before, or since. Now, about that corporal in a chiffon dress. 13. Klinger's dresses were strategic. Maxwell Q. Klinger isn't just a sight gag in heels. He's a long con. His flamboyant wardrobe begins as a calculated bid for a Section 8 discharge. prove I'm crazy, and send me home. But the humor works because Klinger's not actually unhinged. He's desperate, crafty, and weirdly principled. The dresses are armor, a daily protest against a system that's decided his life for him. Jamie Farr's real-life army service adds a surprising layer of authenticity. The Toledo references, especially to Tony Pacos, weren't incidental. They were Farr importing his hometown soul into a character who needed roots. Over time, the writers dialed Klinger's cross-dressing down, letting him evolve from anything to go home, schemer to competent company clerk. A move that mirrors the series' shift from broad hijinks to character nuance. What's wild is how often the joke flips. The gag sets the scene, but Klinger's decency closes it. He's the guy who'll cut through red tape, hustle up a miracle, or pull a face that says, "Yeah, the world's nuts. What else is new?" Once you see the method behind the madness, the dresses stop being punchlines and start reading like a one-man protest sign. Speaking of props with hidden meanings. 12. Radar's teddy bear had a wild epilogue. Radar's teddy bear might be the most eloquent silent character on the show. It's tiny, a little ragged, and utterly devastating in context. A reminder that this gentle Iowa kid is patching up soldiers when he should be worrying about homework and baseball. Directors often frame the bear just so, peeking from a bunk, tucked under an arm, an accidental confession left in plain sight. The bear didn't fade into storage after the series wrapped. It became a pop culture artifact and later fetched a 5-figure sum at auction, proof that fans understood what it symbolized. It wasn't cute. It was a thesis statement, innocence on life support. What makes the prop work is how sparingly it's used. Radar's sweetness isn't naivete, it's resilience. He knows what the stretchers mean. He hears the choppers first. The bear is there for the nights when the wisecracks dry up, and the only thing to do is hold on to something soft until the screaming stops. Once you notice the bear's placements, you'll catch how many scenes treat it like a heartbeat in the frame. And then one day, the show dared to break hearts in a way TV almost never did. 11. Henry Blake's exit change TV rules. When Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake leaves the 4077th, the episode initially plays like a standard bittersweet send-off, hugs, quips, and the hope that he's going home to a calmer life. Then, the unthinkable. Radar steps into the OR with a message no one is ready for. The room keeps operating. The camera keeps rolling. The surgeon's instruments don't pause, because they can't. And suddenly, the series announces it will not always protect you. That narrative sledgehammer wasn't a stunt. It was a statement about randomness and cost. War doesn't give everyone full arcs and tidy epilogues. The choice stunned audiences and rattled critics, and it pushed TV closer to the idea that comedies can carry tragedy without breaking. After that, jokes still fly in MASH, but you sense a before and after. The cast famously wasn't given much warning before filming the reaction, which is why the scene hums with shock. Watch the actors' eyes. They don't play it big. They just keep working, and that restraint makes the moment unforgettable. From that point on, when the camp laughs, it feels earned, like a life raft tossed to anyone within reach. But not every departure got a proper goodbye. 10. Trapper left, off-screen. For a show that turned farewells into rituals, Trapper John's exit arrived like a bad rumor. Off-screen, abrupt, and deeply unsatisfying to fans who loved the Hawkeye Trapper mischief engine. Wayne Rogers' departure meant Trapper didn't get the closure that Henry, or later Radar, received. In story terms, he's simply gone. There's a ring of authenticity to that, oddly enough. Real goodbyes often happen between episodes of our lives. Enter BJ Honeycutt, a quieter counterbalance with a different kind of edge. Mike Farrell doesn't try to replace Trapper's energy. He diffuses it. The Hawkeye-BJ partnership swaps out fratty anarchy for wry companionship and moral inventory. Their pranks become gentler. Their talks heavier. You can almost feel the writers steering the show from kaleidoscopic chaos toward reflective, character-forward drama. The transition also changed how the series handled friendship. Where Hawkeye and Trapper felt like co-conspirators crashing a party, Hawkeye and BJ talk like two men holding each other together. It's less fireworks, more lighthouse. Not the farewell fans wanted, but the pivot that let MASH grow up without losing its pulse. And in an earlier season, one character disappeared for a very different and complicated reason. 9. Spearchucker vanished for a controversial reason. Early on, the show introduced Dr. Oliver Spearchucker Jones, a skilled black surgeon adapted from the original novel and film. Then, he disappeared. The reason often cited in production lore: a belief in the writer's room that there weren't black surgeons serving in MASH units during Korea, an assertion that historians and veterans have challenged. However you parse it, the result is the same. A promising character was dropped, and the series missed chances to explore stories that would have widened its lens. It's a reminder that even a show as progressive as MASH could stumble while chasing authenticity. The Disappearance stands out because the series generally excelled at complicating assumptions about rank, country, masculinity, even humor. Here, it fell short. Revisiting those early episodes is a what-if exercise. Imagine Jones sparring with Winchester over technique, or trading quiet smiles with Kelly in post-op. The show eventually became more intentional about representation in smaller ways, but Jones's absence lingers as a footnote with bite. Sometimes the weirdest fact isn't a fun one. It's a lesson in how TV finds, and sometimes loses, its better self. Now, from characters who vanished to a set that nearly did. 8. The finale fire was real. Nature crashed the wrap party. As the production prepared its goodbye, a brushfire swept through the Malibu location where exterior camp scenes were filmed. Rather than pretend nothing happened, the team folded the flames into the story world, echoing the cruel logic of war. When you leave, you don't always leave things as you found them. The camp's destruction becomes a plot point, a last, smoky image that says endings can be deliberate and chaotic at once. The result is eerie. The set you've memorized, the signpost, the swamp, the OR, feels both cinematic and documentary in its final moments, as if the show is acknowledging that a place built from plywood and paint had become real through the memories we poured into it. Burning it down isn't just spectacle, it's ritual. That decision also lets the finale land with tactile weight. Goodbyes aren't just spoken, they're dismantled plank by plank. When the camera lingers on ruins, it's not tragedy porn, it's closure with splinters. Few finales trust their audience like that, to hold beauty and ash in the same frame. And before that epic farewell, the series tested another daring idea. Could one voice carry an entire episode? 7. The one-man Hawkeye experiment. In Hawkeye, Alan Alda spends most of the episode alone with a rural Korean family who doesn't speak English, rattling off monologues because he's terrified of falling asleep with a concussion. It's a theatrical gamble. Less banter, more stream of consciousness, as if the show pressed pause on ensemble rhythms to peer inside its protagonist's skull. What makes it work is the specificity. Hawkeye babbles, jokes, panics, teaches, apologizes. He becomes a one-man weather system drifting over a family's kitchen table. The episode trusts silence too. Beats where the family watches, where we watch them watching him. It's risky TV for its time, and it paved the way for later experiments, from documentary-style episodes to real-time pressure cookers. Alda's performance is the anchor, but the writing sneaks in the show's thesis. When you strip away the wisecracks and the scrubs before scrubs tempo, what remains is a man who uses language like a tourniquet. Keep talking, keep bleeding less. By the end, you feel wrung out and oddly grateful for the show's usual chorus of voices. After tasting isolation, the camp's noise feels like mercy, Speaking of sound, the show's melody has its own strange origin story. 6. The theme song's secret. A teen wrote the lyrics. You've heard the melody 1,000 times, but fewer people know the words. Suicide is Painless, first used in the MASH film, got its lyrics from Mike Altman, who was 14 when he wrote them. The TV series used the tune instrumentally, and that decision changed the vibe from bleakly ironic to bittersweetly reflective. Without words, the melody becomes a gentle ache, a lullaby for people who can't sleep. The fact of a teenager penning those lyrics adds a surreal layer to the show's DNA. MASH often framed heavy questions with innocent surfaces, and here's the ultimate example. A simple, hummable line that carries the weight of mortality, if you know the title. It's both dissonant and perfect. There's another twist. The song reportedly earned significant royalties over time, a reminder that sometimes the weirdest show business story is the spreadsheet. But mostly, the theme endures because it sets the emotional key before a single joke drops. You're primed to accept that this is a comedy that respects silence, a half smile that knows why it's half. And once you're listening closely, you start seeing other quiet choices, like how the camera frames Radar's hands, or rather, what it hides. 5. Gary Berghoff hit a real-life hand difference. If you've ever thought, I rarely see Radar use both hands, you're noticing careful craft. Gary Berghoff was born with a difference in his left hand, and the show frequently blocked, framed, or staged action so it wouldn't draw focus. Props, clipboards, radios, and clever angles do subtle work, never as a secret to be ashamed of, but as a decision to keep Radar's essence front and center. That essence is attentiveness. Radar hears the helicopters before everyone else. He's the camp's early warning system and moral barometer. By minimizing anything that could distract from that purity, the directors let his watchfulness define him. Once you know, you'll spot the choreography, how a camera starts on his right side, how a passing actor forms living set dressing, how a cut lands just as a gesture would have revealed more. It's a lesson in compassionate filmmaking. Serve the character, not the trivia. And in a series where everyone wears armor, Hawkeye his jokes, Winchester his manners, Klinger his outfits, Radar's armor is gentleness. The staging protects that. Speaking of authorship and intention, one actor didn't just play the lead, he steered the ship from behind the camera too. 4. Alan Alda wasn't just the star. Alan Alda didn't merely headline MASH, he helped define it. Over the run, he wrote and/or directed a significant number of episodes, pushing the show toward ethical dilemmas, narrative experiments, and character-first storytelling. You can feel his fingerprints in episodes that linger in the OR after the joke ends, or that ask whether saving one person is enough when you can't save everyone. His dual role tightened the show's thematic spine. Compassion with teeth. Hawkeye isn't saintly, he's flawed, petty, heroic, exhausted. Alda's scripts often put that contradiction under a microscope, then let humor diffuse the tension without erasing it. The direction frequently favors close-ups that read like confessionals, which is why a raised eyebrow can carry a monologue's worth of meaning. There's also a practical upside. When your lead understands the camera's job, ensemble chemistry sharpens, scenes breathe, beats land. The result is a comedy that respects pacing like a drama. Alda's influence didn't defunny the show, it deepened the well the jokes draw from. And that realism wasn't just emotional. The production chased medical authenticity too, right down to tools and technique. 3. Medical reality in a sitcom. For a half-hour comedy, MASH sweats the details. Surgical consultants advised on procedures, dialogue, and OR etiquette. Instruments clink with the right weight. Nurses call out orders that actually track. The camera often sits at shoulder height, so you feel like a scrub tech stealing glances at the clock. That tactility, latex, gauze, steel, grounds the humor in a world that obeys reality. The payoff is credibility. When Hawkeye cracks wise over a chest tube, the laugh doesn't break the spell. It rings out inside it. The show treats patients as people, not plot devices. You see their fear, their photos, their letters from home. The war is a conveyor belt of bodies, but MASH keeps forcing you to look at faces. Because the medical beats are right, the moral beats bite harder. A triage call isn't a coin flip. It's a choice with standards, regret, and consequences. Many comedies float above their settings. MASH lives in its. And when it needs to pull back from blood and bone, it found a perfect device. Ink, paper, and a quiet voice reading home. 2. The 47/7 Loved Letters. Some of MASH's most elegant episodes hide in plain sight. The Dear installments. Dear Dad, Dear Peggy, Dear Sis. These are confessionals disguised as correspondence, letting the show braid multiple short stories into one emotional arc. The format is deceptively simple. Voiceover narration, intercut scenes, a final paragraph that reframes what you've just seen. It's a brilliant cheat code. Letters justify direct address without feeling like speeches, and they allow the show to be intimate without dropping the ensemble dynamic. We get Hawkeye's snark and shame, BJ's homesick hope, Father Mulcahy's humility. Even Winchester's pomposity softens when he writes to someone who remembers the boy before the monogram. The format also smuggles in social commentary. A letter home can say what a lecture can't. Here's how the bureaucracy grinds us down. Here's why a wounded kid's boots don't fit. Here's what humor keeps out of nightmares. By the time a Dear episode fades out, you feel written to, not preached at. Those letters prepared viewers for the biggest communal message the show ever sent, a farewell that turned into a national moment. 1. The biggest audience in TV history for years. Goodbye, farewell, and amen wasn't just a finale. It was a shared ritual. Tens upon tens of millions watched together, a record-shattering audience that would stand for decades. The country collectively decided to sit down, hold its breath, and say thank you. Even the apocryphal stories are legendary. Municipal water use, spiking at commercial breaks, as if an entire continent planned bathroom trips in sync. What made it land? Earned emotion. The finale doesn't sprint to wrap things up. It moseys, like the show always did, letting conversations become goodbyes, and goodbyes become lessons. We see people we love, pack jokes alongside trauma, and try to carry both home. The last image, stones spelling a word in the dirt, manages to be simple, grand, and private all at once. For a series obsessed with the cost of doing your job, the finale pays its bill with grace. And when it ends, you realize why the weird facts matter. They're the brushstrokes that made a sitcom about surgeons feel like a story about people. Which brings us to one last chapter. Conclusion. When you gather these odd bits, the teen-written theme, the disappearing characters, the stubborn refusal to laugh in the OR, you realize MASH wasn't trying to be clever. It was trying to be honest. Honest about how humor can anesthetize without numbing, how friendship can be both prank and prayer, how a teddy bear can say what dialogue can't. The show kept asking a hard question. What does it mean to be kind when the world is unkind? It never gave a tidy answer. It gave us people who tried. Maybe that's why the series still works. You don't have to know a Kelly from a Klinger to feel the truth in the camp's rhythms. The choppers come, the stretchers roll, someone cracks a joke, someone cries later. The signpost points everywhere at once because home isn't a place. It's the person next to you, handing you a clamp, sharing a letter, saving the last olive. If one of these facts surprised you or sent you down a rabbit hole, tell me which one in the comments. And if we missed your favorite deep cut from the 47th, drop it below so we can feature it in a future video. If you enjoyed this trip back to camp, hit like and subscribe. We've got more throwbacks lined up, from weird facts from Cheers to the Friday night death slot and the flops that never stood a chance. Until next time, be kind, keep your humor sharp, and remember, some goodbyes are really promises to meet again.